the keyboard to the boardroom. This is the business of esports. Do you want to own your esports fandom and support your favorite content creators and gamers? Arterra Labs is a world-renowned NFT platform with a focus on esports and gaming markets. Their climate-neutral platform enables users to find, mint, trade, and purchase items from some of the top influencers and esports organizations. It's easy to use and even easier to sign up for. Don't miss out on the modern-day NFT gold rush. Just go to arterra.co to learn more. That's ARTERRA.co. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports podcast. I am Paul Doalibi. I'm joined today by my friend and co-host, Jeff the Juice Cohen. For those of you who are new to the podcast, welcome to the official podcast of esports. What we do here is we cover the most pressing gaming and esports topics and news of the week, but we look at all of it through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening in this industry. For our regular listeners, thank you guys for tuning in every week. Thank you for all the love, the 5-star ratings and reviews. If you haven't yet, do 2 things for me. Tell your friends and family about the podcast and go leave a review. If you love the content, if you love listening to the podcast every week, really appreciate it. It helps other people to find the show. Jeff, how are you doing this week? By the way, you don't look like my usual friend and co-host, Jimmy Barada.
I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or not, but yeah, big shoes to fill here. Excited to be on the main show. I made sure to tell Jimmy the story of Wally Pipp. For those of you who don't know,
worth telling. Yes, he
was the Yankees' first baseman, and then he took a sick day, and next thing you know, Lou Gehrig started the next 3,000 games. So I told Jimmy, I'm not giving the microphone back up unless he flies to New York and rips it out of my hands. So this is big. This is an audition for me. I'm taking this. This is huge. This is an opportunity here.
It is the main show, which is fun, and it's fun to have you on. For those of you who are fans of the Juice, as you know, he does a show with us, the weekly news show, which you should come check out. We do it live every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and Jeff and I get to co-host a show together called Meta Business, which is an entirely new podcast, entirely different podcast. And it's a lot of fun. We cover the business side of the metaverse, a lot of stuff around blockchain-based gaming and NFTs and crypto and everything that touches the metaverse. So definitely go subscribe to that because Jeff and I have too much fun with that podcast. But it is big shoes to fill. We feel bad for Jimmy. He actually does have COVID. But Jeff, there's no one better to fill those shoes than you. So I am excited to get going here.
I did have a question. We have a question. I was going to go into the guests. See, I already screwed up. Ask me the question. I like getting questions.
I have a question for you. When you're done, when all is said and done at the end of this episode, right? What do you want people to be saying about the Juice, right? Like, what do you want your legacy on the main podcast to be here at the end of all this?
I'm just hoping they say, Jimmy who? William who? That's the best thing you could do is just, step right in and, next man up kind of thing. That's what we do around here.
And I feel like you've felt this has been coming because you've been more active recently on Twitter, which, by the way, everyone should go follow the Juice on Twitter at Jeff Cohen 23. But I feel like this is all sort of coming together for you as if it's some master plan here.
This has been a long time coming. I think. Next it'll be ESPN, and then from there probably, maybe running for office or something. But this will be a good start.
This will do. No, you mentioned we do have an amazing guest this week, and I am excited to get to them. And we have none other than Chris Matthews, who is the co-founder of Gamerabble. Chris, welcome to the Business of Esports podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Long time caller, first time listener. I'm excited to hear who this amazing guest you have is, so don't let me.
It's the other guy in the green room. You didn't see him?
Chris, no, would love for those in our audience who maybe don't know about you, don't know about Gamerabble, would love for you to tell a bit about your story, your background, how you got into gaming, why you got into gaming, and what you're focused on today at Gamerabble.
Sure, and happy Groundhog's Day, everyone. So if you miss anything, don't worry. You're probably going to hear it like 30 times in a row. You're just going to keep reliving Gamerabble every single day. So feel free to take a break if you need to. So again, thank you for having me. Gamerabble, I'll take a step back. I'm going to tell you about myself. I grew up, most of my professional life, I actually worked in childcare, child development, working with kids, in various capacities. And it's always been a lifelong love of my own, being able to work with kids. And, then there was also gaming. I was a child of the 80s. And of course, when you're a kid, especially back then, you'd get asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do for a living? And, there's the answer, cowboy, fireman, policeman, whatever it is. But the real answer is always, I want to play a video game for a living. But, certainly back in those days, that was a far, far, far-fetched answer. And, being that I'm now incredibly old and the senior circuit hasn't taken off quite yet in the esports scene, I saw an opportunity to be able to get involved in a lot of different ways. And I can also tell you personally, I'm quite an introvert, whether or not it comes off like that on a podcast or not. I'm very much an introvert. And when games started going online and you had to start talking to strangers and all those things, I had a few experiences and there was a ton of toxicity. And I turned tail and ran. It was not for me. I basically never went back. If I'm going to play online where I have to talk to somebody, I'm going to play with my friends. I will not play with people that I don't know because it's an awful feeling. And it saps the fun out of gaming. So moving forward, especially now that I'm a father as well, I look around at video game and esports coaching platforms, and it worries me a little bit because for the most part, I'd say 90% of them, you look at them and they're sort of leaning into that toxic, angry mid-20s white male. I mean, the gamers that you're supposed to be learning from, they generally look angry. They're standing there with their arms crossed like this, looking like this, very angry. And that's definitely not somebody I want to learn from, not somebody that I want to deal with online. And if I'm going to have my child do it, I'm definitely not going to send my child to these people. And, that's just the individual coaches. And then you've got some of these really, really big platforms that are also, whether or not they mean to, they're definitely leaning into this uninclusive, unapproachable, toxic sort of ethos. That's just, I don't think it's the right way to go about things. I think there's a lot of people that are in this for the wrong reason. And it shows, and I think that will catch up to them eventually. But for now, I just want to have a place where the introverts, the people that don't feel included in regular things, can come get a little bit of coaching, whether that be one-on-one coaching, group coaching, VOD coaching, which we're working on, or even new API software, somewhere where they can just feel like they're coming in and they're having fun doing what they're doing, rather than leaning into this angry, competitive, toxic environment. And I think part of what led into this is these coaching platforms The whole esports thing took off with these late teen, early 20 college students as the main focus of esports. But now that it's actually growing, if it's going to continue to grow, it needs to grow with the youth market, and we need to do it right. We have an opportunity to do it the right way. Even traditional sports, tennis, soccer, whatever it is, parents have lost their damn minds, and it's not fun for the parents. It's not fun for the kids. It's not fun for anybody anymore. So we have this opportunity now to try and do this the right way. And, that starts with the right mindset, building it up the right way. And I'll tell you, Gamerabble, we do have a lot of people that have a similar ethos as to what we have. There's Freddie Halstead over at Eternity and Techie Factory. He's doing amazing things on the youth side. James O'Hagan, he's great with the education and esports side. We recently partnered with NASEF as well as the Amateur Esports Association to try and bring coaching to the high school, the junior high, and the youth markets, to be able to bring it in the right way, bring it a way that's going to help build them for a future of success in such a way that they're going to have fun. They're not going to get burnt out. They're not going to be angry all the time. And hopefully the idea is it's going to bleed over into real life and gaming life, and not just bleed this toxicity forever, because the kids are going, I believe the children are our future. So they're going to be the ones that are going to be bringing esports.
Amen.
That's right. So I see
Think of the children.
A speak and spell or something in the background there, Jeff, which I really like. I think that's what it might be.
That's just some that's just some ridiculous thing my wife put on the wall.
So anyways, and that's not to say that Gamerabble is specifically focused on the youth market. It's for everybody that just wants to feel safe, have fun, and feel included, and not be sucked into this very standoffish, very borderline angry coaching ecosystem that we're developing at this point.
Chris, let me ask you a question, because I think this ethos and this mission is certainly one we could all get on board with, and I think it makes all the sense in the world. And I think I'm hearing a lot about who you're targeting. I'm curious, though, when you get down to it, I'd love to hear some things about how the platform is maybe different than some other coaching platforms, or is it just, hey, it's a similar tools and whatever, it's just we're targeting a different demographic or a different type of person?
Right.
Or are there actual things in the platform that, better moderation, better, something in the technology that makes it more friendly to gamers and kind of getting rid of that toxicity? We would love to hear that.
Yeah. So at this point, we're basically just targeting a different demo. Now, we're still building it out. We're still pivoting a little bit here and there to figure out how exactly we want to deliver this content. And at this point, we do have our coaches, but then we have, handpicked coaches that are vetted and background checked, that are specifically, geared for the youth. So that's another attempt to be able to, allow anybody that feels like they want to come onto the platform to be able to come onto it. Now, we do have further things that I can't delve too much into that we're developing on the software side that's going to be specifically for the youth market, above and beyond what we've already built. So at this point, everything is just basically the demo and how we're approaching it and who we're approaching at this point, and as well as who we're choosing to partner with, because we want to partner with the right people that have the right ideas in mind.
What does that demographic look like, Chris, if you could articulate it? Like, what is your ideal customer? And if it's younger, does that mean you're spending a lot of time selling into the parents?
Yes, absolutely. So we're trying to make sure that we can sell to the parents, because we can't really sell to a 13-year-old or even younger than that, but we can sell to a parent. In fact, I can tell you, we've already had parents come onto the platform and sort of test out our coaches, because we've had one that said that they were looking for a coach for their 8-year-old. So they came on and they tested out our coach, and they they have come back. I've lost count, probably 15 times at this point. So they just keep coming back, and they're recurring buyers. So a lot of what we're going after is the parents. And a lot of the times the parents are also the same people that feel like they're the ones that they just don't fit into this new world. They want to game, but they're so far behind. And then when they look for coaching, it just is unappealing to them.
Chris, what's the psychology that you think your business is tapping into from the parent's perspective? Meaning, let me try and sort of be more specific with my question. In other words, are you trying to, like, is the appeal to the parent that, hey, esports is blowing up, prize money's bigger than ever, this is a path you want your kid to be potentially successful in, maybe they'll get scholarships, maybe they'll make a lot of money before they're 20 years old, and so you want to give them that competitive edge today? Or is it, hey, this is an interesting hobby and pastime for your kid, here's a good way for them to spend an hour after school and, give them to us, kind of thing?
Sure.
Or is it somewhere in between?
So mostly we don't try and sell them on, they can make a lot of money doing this in tournaments or whatever, because that starts to bleed over into the hyper competitive world of youth sports. And again, that's going to start being a little bit on the edge there. Now, we do want to sell them as esports as a potential scholarship and a positive way of being able to interact and learn about a new business that will be huge for the foreseeable future. So yeah, it's basically getting them to understand that this is a big thing. And I can tell you, 20% of families in North America spend over $1,000 on sports coaching or various different forms of coaching. Sounds like a lot of money, but if you're a parent and you start adding it up, I thought that was insane. But then I added it up. My own personal son, he has tennis, he has soccer, he has taekwondo, he has piano, and then he's got whatever else he feels like that he wants to take part in. You start adding that up, and it starts to be a lot of money. Esports is going to be a part of that very, very soon. Once parents start to realize, wow, my son actually can make a living, my son can get a scholarship in this, and I don't have to pay for him to go to school, it's going to continue to grow and eat into that $1,000. And not only that, esports offers an opportunity to a lot of kids who maybe are less traditionally athletic. This gives them an opportunity to participate in a similar sort of thing where they couldn't necessarily do it otherwise.
Chris, I have a question for you. Have you ever, or do you work with any of the UGC platforms? Like, one of the things I'm thinking as I'm hearing your demographic and kind of who you're going after is, I just can't help but keep thinking Roblox, just because we all know that's sort of exactly their market. Do you have any coaches that are kind of teaching kids how to make these UGC games? Because I could see that as being very appealing to a parent, where it's like, hey, your kid can be, occupied in this friendly, safe space. They're getting, all that, and they're also learning how to become a game developer and maybe even making some money. Like, is that something you guys do or have thought about?
Yeah, we actually do have a couple of Roblox coaches on the back burner, because we have actually been asked that exact same thing. Like, my son or daughter is completely into Roblox. Can you find me a coach? The only problem that we've run into that is, is Roblox a game? Is Roblox a platform? What is Roblox? Roblox is
a metaverse.
Things. So trying to find the exact person to be able to teach exactly what this child is looking for, or exactly what this parent is looking for their child, is tricky, because it's such a shotgun approach. Roblox is, as to what they do. So it is something that we're working on, but that's the main problem with Roblox. Like, unless you have 500 different Roblox coaches, you will not be able to cover all the different things. Even then, you probably won't be able to cover all the different things that a child might be interested in, or a parent might be interested in for their child.
Chris, one of the things you mentioned was, your son being in taekwondo and soccer and tennis. And, I was listening to that list, and part of it, what stood out to me, obviously, these are physical sports for the most part, right? They're all done and taught in person, right? You probably drive your son to a taekwondo studio or to a soccer field or wherever, they participate, and get this coaching in person. And I would also bet, if, I don't have kids, but my experience as a kid, my mom would sit in for 3 hours at the pool while I swam. And I think part of the in-person piece of that creates trust with the coach, sort of implicitly, right? Like, because you see the coach, you see what they're doing, you can see what they're saying, what they're telling your kid. I feel some of the challenge with coaching platforms targeted at a younger demographic is there's always this fear of, like, how are these people vetted? How do I know what they're doing with my kid? And I'm curious if you think the answer to esports coaching in the long run for this target demographic, this younger target demographic, will it happen at a local level more in person, you think? Or do you think we can solve some of those trust challenges with platforms that are online only?
I think it's going to go both ways. I think, the just it being online, and I can tell you, I worked in information security as well. So, I'm hyper alert between working with kids and having a background in InfoSec. I'm hyper alert of online dangers. The interwebs is an awful place, awful, awful place. And I try and shield my son from that, make him smart enough about it as much as I can. But it will definitely, and a lot of this, I think, is going to be in educating the parents, because even now, so many parents, they're still not accepting esports as a whole. You talk about going to taekwondo, going to tennis, whatever, and building that trust with a coach. How often is a parent going, at this point, going to go to a LAN center or whatever it might be and sit and watch this take place, because they still don't necessarily understand what they're looking at, what's happening, or what they're doing? And, so as that evolves, so will the trust with the online platforms evolve as well. Now, it's going to take, a lot more than just trusting a name. You need to be able to make sure that these coaches are who they say they are. You need to make sure that everybody's got their background checks and be able to show that they have their background checks. You need to be able to show, allow parents an opportunity to hop on the Discord stream and sit and watch, similar as they would in person. I can tell you, I personally, with our coaching sessions, I will jump on the Discord stream, whether or not it's with a kid, just to make sure that our coaches are actually bringing this ethos and everything that we expect them to bring with them during these coaching sessions. And I can tell you, we're lucky to have some really, really great coaches on our platform as well. So I think at this point, it's a matter of education and bringing them into the fold as the parents start to learn about it and start to trust esports first and what it's building towards. And then they can start and figure out what they're looking for in these coaches, what they need to watch out for on these platforms, and what they personally need to do as parents.
Can we talk about business model for a second here? Like, with coaching platforms, I think where I'm always tough with, with people is they're two-sided marketplaces, right? And this is with any two-sided marketplace. And the reason I'm tough is because with a two-sided marketplace, you need to make two sales, right? You need to convince, especially I would say, Chris, in your case, right? You really need great coaches on the platform, right? You can't have just anyone to accomplish the kind of goals you guys have. And then you need the students, right? The users, the kids who are paying, or the parents who are paying for the coaching. And I'm curious, when you look at the two sides of your own marketplace here, which side in your mind has been or will be the tougher side to solve for, right? Like, is it the supply of great coaches? Is it the demand from enough students? And I'm curious if you could talk to also what are the levers on each side, right? Like, anytime there's a new Fortnite tournament with a huge prize pool, right? Do you see a huge influx of students? Like, what are those levers that have an impact on both sides of that marketplace?
Yeah, so we had a similar conversation when you were a judge at the ESTA conference panel, like 4 months ago or something, and you more or less, said the same thing. I think you said, Chris, your idea is stupid. I hate it. Get off the stage. I cried for days. So
in fairness, I'm pretty sure I didn't use those words.
Totally said that. I'll find the recording from ESTA if they're listening. You totally said that. You're so mean to me. Yeah, you're completely right. It is tricky, especially if you want to do it the right way. I mean, you can say that we've got 12,000 coaches on our platform. Bull crap. We are looking for just the right coaches, and we have been lucky that a lot of our coaches have come via word of mouth. I mean, we've done a little bit of digital door knocking when we found somebody that could potentially fit what we were looking for. And I will tell you, my co-founder Cecile was on the Meta Woman podcast plug with Lindsay Poss, and we actually had coaches reach out to us from that because they liked our ethos. They saw what we were trying to do, and it resonated with them. So it's important for us, to have that word of mouth, but to make sure that people understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, and that we're completely genuine with why we're doing it. There's plenty of platforms out there that say that they're doing it for this reason or the other, and they're completely disingenuous and full of it. But that works for them. Good for them. But again, we want to do it for the right way, and we just hope that the coaches that join us see that. And I personally interact with all of these coaches, and I want to make sure that they are not only the best coaches for us, but that they're happy. I can tell you that we've got one coach on our staff who already has had to deal with sort of misogynistic remarks and attacks, and felt like she had to step back from coaching, not from coaching on our platform. She was doing something somewhere else. And it crushed her, absolutely crushed her. And I personally want to make sure that not just our players, but our coaches as well feel like they're a part of something, that they're not just faces on our website, as we build and grow everything. And as far as the levers, we've seen a bump. We saw a massive bump around the holidays. Part of that is we're still young, and we're really not spending any money on marketing at this point. People are finding us via good SEO and, again, word of mouth from other people. But during the holidays, when people have a little bit more time to themselves, that's when they start showing up. And I can tell you our partnership with NASEF, that had a bump as well, because we partner with them to provide not only coaching services, but to be able to provide master classes for free with our coaches. And that in turn, would bring more people to our platform as well. And we have a similar setup with the Amateur Esports Association as well, where we will provide coaching to LAN centers who want to be able to have this sort of thing, but don't necessarily have the time, money, or bandwidth or knowledge to be able to do something like this. So we will provide our coaches so that they can have some sort of esports coaching within their LAN center.
It's an interesting thing, because if you can create this level of trust where people know they come to you and they get a coach that's not going to be toxic, that's not going to be offensive, that's not right, that is way better than anything else they're going to get on any other platform, right? I feel like that supply of student side sort of solves for itself, right? And especially because all it takes is one bad experience on another platform to come running to you. I think the challenge obviously is it's always a little bit of this push and pull, right? Where you want to be able to say we have 10,000 coaches on our platform, but in reality, your business is far better off. It feels like to me having 100 really, a cut above kind of coaches that are going to be the best of the best and never cross the kinds of lines that you guys have set. Does this mean at some point in the future, right, that even though esports coaching feels like there's quite a few players already, that you guys will be able to charge a premium for this? Like, is this in your mind a very premium product long term?
I think long term, we're not looking at having that premium platinum level sort of service. We want to make sure that we're going to be able to remain approachable and inclusive to everybody. There's other platforms out there who have a premium product and they do amazing work. I can tell you, Elventus, they do amazing work, and they're a high premium product, and for a good reason. So that's not really the market that we're going to. What we want to do is we want to provide several different avenues to improvement, whether it's the team coaching, the one-on-one coaching, the VODs, the being able to provide coaches to schools and clubs that don't have the knowledge or bandwidth, or LAN centers to be able to do it. We just want to be able to make sure that everybody can be included in this as we build and grow. We don't want to price ourselves out. We want to be friendly. We want to be fun. We don't, once you start getting up there and people start, thinking that we're beyond their grasp, then I think we've done something wrong.
And how does the business model work? What's like the take rate you guys are currently, I'm assuming it's something you're taking out of the fees. And
Sure.
then I'm curious, how's the financing been going?
Sure.
I know there's been a lot of different platforms. Like just yesterday, I saw a competitor. I guess you may not say they're a competitor. They're probably more on the maybe toxic side, but I think it's called Medify. Got $25 million from Tiger Global, which is obviously a massive round. I'm curious, do you think this ends up being a land grab where people start spending tons of money, or kind of just your thoughts broadly on that?
Yeah. So as far as the model and the take, as of right now, it's there's different tiers depending on the price and the product. Whereas one-on-one coaching, depending on the price, we take X%. For the LAN centers, we'll take a different percent for that. For longer term coaches provided to schools and clubs, there's yet a different tier for that as well. And then we also have a couple of new things that we're working on that I can't get into, that will have yet another completely different model built into it, where that is not commission based, where that one is completely built for us, and it was just 100% built on us. Yes, I did see that there was a big Series A happened yesterday. As far as land grabs, I think Medify is doing a little bit of their own land grab. They've already they took they've purchased a couple of companies. I know Gamers Ready not too long ago. They're trying to snatch people up to build an empire. I think Pro Guides was purchased as well. Yeah, 25 million, 30 million or so total, I think. That's a lot of money. We'll see if they can build up a return on 30 million. On our side, we're starting to poke around for potential funding. We have had a few people interested. We've had a few people interested that we didn't like them back because, again, we want to do this right. And truth be told, we are not looking to just take in $5 million of seed money, because if you take in that much money in the beginning, you can do a lot of marketing. You can spend a lot of money on publicity. But you know what? That masks a lot of things underneath, because as you're spending that money and you're bringing people to the platform, you could have a very, very shaky platform going on underneath that eventually is going to crater. So you have to be very, very careful when you're bringing in money. We're not striking out to, again, take in a ton of money just for the sake of taking in money. We're going to be very careful about who we take money from and why we take in money and the amount that we take in, because we want to make sure that we're not going to lose our soul in the process. And we want to make sure that what we're building, as we build it, is actually going to have a strong foundation. That's not going to be masked by all of this money poured into publicity and marketing.
Does scale have does it give a huge advantage, you feel, in this space, Chris? Like, does being big make a difference when it comes to these coaching platforms? Or do you feel like in some ways staying small allows you to maintain more of that product advantage that you guys have?
Yeah, it definitely, especially speaking to the whole funding side of things, is when you're taking in all of this money, you got a lot of different bosses you got to answer to now. And if you remain small, you can keep your soul and make sure that you're driving it in the way that you want it to go, and that your customers really grow to love and want it to grow as well. There are advantages to being huge, and we do have a plan to scale. It's not going to be in the one-on-one coaching platform. That is never going to scale to be an enormous company. I know you've probably had at length conversations with William about this as well, because he knows better than anybody at this point how it can actually go. There's definitely a ceiling, and this sort of marketplace thing has very thin margins, very thin margins. And it's how you expand, it's how you build yourself, it's how you treat your customers, both sides of the customers, or three sides: the players, the parents, if you want to consider them a customer, and the coaches as well. And they're going to be the ones that are going to help bring people in and help you to grow and make sure that you're building everything the right way. And at that point, if the right people are interested in partnering up with us in financial means, there's definitely conversations to be had there. Absolutely. But again, it's not a matter of just taking in as much money as we can. That's dangerous.
I'm curious when you say it's never gonna be one-to-one coaching that scales. I think that's interesting. Do you just think that the addressable market's not that big? Like, I'm curious why you would sort of, say that as someone building a coaching platform.
Sure. Because I think it's going to be something where you have to really diversify. You know, there's only so many people, good coaches, we'll say, out there. We fully believe that anybody can be a coach, but that it takes more than just being good at a game to be a good coach. You have to be a good person too. I could sign up to be a coach for, I'll show up and I can coach somebody in Loom if anybody wants to play a
great game
35-year-old
that
game.
literally 0.5% of our listeners are old enough to even know this reference, Chris. But fantastic game. Both fantastic games.
Later.
Please tell me you have like all the original Sierra, like you have Heroes Quest, you have.
I have most of them. Unfortunately, in my younger days, and Electronics Boutique, I got a lot of those, stupid things that you do when you're a kid and you don't have money. But I have quite a few that I've either kept or collected at some point over the years. But anyways, point is, yeah, I mean, I can show up, I can say that I'm a coach for something, but I'd be a terrible coach. So you can only get so many good coaches. And, you can say you've got a billion coaches on your platform, but it's really, really watered down. It's really watered down. And people's experiences will be watered down with that as well. So that's why I say you can only grow this to be so big. Because, if you have, as Paul said, 100 amazing coaches, that could bring in a lot of people. But there's only so many hours in a day for these coaches to be able to do this. So it's going to hit that ceiling where you cannot grow that any further. But you have to diversify the sort of coaching that you're offering, whether that's VOD or building a educational overlay for the games that you're coaching on, or whatever that may be. I think there's a lot of different paths that you can build as a companion to that coaching platform.
Chris, I have one last question that I think would be interesting insight for our audience. What is the game at this age group that's most in demand, right? That parents come to you the most in terms of looking for coaching for their kids?
You want to guess?
Jeff, I'm curious what you think.
The game, oh man. It's not Roblox, I assume, because we talked about that one before.
I hate to say Fortnite, but I feel like it's going to be Fortnite.
That's probably a good answer.
Those are both wrong. It's
interesting.
F1 2021.
Really? Wow. Okay, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah, we thought so too. But we started getting, one of our first coaches was an F1 coach. And we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. We'll put you on there. We'll put any game on there. And our F1 coaches are far and away, and that could, also that could potentially be because there's fewer people that offer that sort of thing. League of Legends is a dime a dozen. Fortnite is a dime a dozen. There's tons of coaches for those games. And, we do get people that come in for coaching for those as well. But the top two are F1 and Rocket League.
Wow. Interesting. Driving
interesting.
games dominating.
People just want to get into F1.
Yeah. And
the actual
when you
sport.
think about
it,
if you get
all the parents want their kids to be F1 drivers, right?
Well, if you get outside of the American sporting system, the two biggest sports in the world are going to be FIFA, soccer, and racing. And in Europe, F1 is huge, absolutely huge. And of course, so is soccer. So once you get out of that North American, United States, really, mindset, it starts to make sense. And you can see that, even these sim racing tournaments and events draw tens of millions of spectators. So I have just given away our advantage here to everyone. So,
or everyone looking to put their kids in a great esports should be talking to you, Chris, and should be
yes,
going to Gamerabble because there's no one else doing it as good as you guys are. And so, no, I love it. I love ending on that sort of bit of insight, which I would never have expected. But Chris, if you want to be found, followed, like where can people find out more, whether it's about you or about Gamerabble? Where can they go?
Sure. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Christopher Matthews of Gamerabble. If you want to go to the website, it's gamerabble.com, GAMERABBLE.com. And of course, you can pronounce it Gamerabble, Gamerable. I've heard a lot of different ones. Doesn't matter to me so long as you're talking about us.
I love it. I truly appreciate what you guys are doing. I think the gaming world needs more of this. And I think for parents, what you guys are trying to accomplish gives them a lot of comfort. I definitely think it's a fascinating piece of the coaching pie, and love what you guys are trying to achieve. So definitely encourage all of our listeners to go check it out, especially ones with kids. Highly encourage it. Guys, for our listeners, also just a couple of administrative points. Every Wednesday evening, we do a live stream. Jeff and I are on there, and the bigger cast, Lindsay Poss, by the way, who hosts the Meta Woman podcast now. So if you love the business of gaming and you want to hear us talk about all the big news stories of the week, we do it on that live stream every Wednesday evening, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Definitely show up, come ask questions, participate. You don't have to if you don't want to, but we encourage it. It's a lot of fun. And make sure you go subscribe to Meta Business and Meta Woman, our two sister podcasts. Jeff and I host Meta Business. Lindsay hosts Meta Woman. They're a lot of fun also. So definitely go subscribe to those and make sure to follow us everywhere. Business of Esports, Biz Esports on every platform, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, you name it, on every platform you can find Business of Esports. We really appreciate it, guys. Chris, thank you so much for coming. Jeff, thank you so much for filling in this week. Jimmy's job is definitely in jeopardy. In trouble here.
That was the big takeaway here. That was the big takeaway. Sorry, Chris. That was the big news today.
And as always, guys, we will see you next week.